think a lot of you have heard about strategic metals in the past. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go over some common territory, but there are a lot of updates in this as well. We've had, I think, a pretty exciting conference, and the roundup which preceded it, I think, was very fruitful. I was just talking to someone here in the crowd and pointed out that we've done more deals in the last couple of weeks and have more irons in the fire than we've really done in the last 2 years. So I think we're entering a very exciting cycle, and I'm hoping it's going to be relatively long-lived. So let's, without further ado, get into this presentation. So the regulators would really like you to read that quickly and pay attention to it. Like everybody else, we have to have our disclaimers. Okay. So what are some of the catalysts for strategic, or what's strategic about? One of the first things is we're a project generator, which is a slightly different model than most exploration companies follow. Most companies will have one or maybe two projects that they're focused on. All their fundraising activities and reporting is based on those properties. Strategic has a very large portfolio. We currently have over 90 active exploration projects, plus a lot of royalty interests and optioned out projects and joint ventures. It's a product of about 20 years of dedicated exploration. We've used the knowledge that I built up in my career of more than 50 years in Yukon, and a huge database that we have access to through Archer Catherine Associates, the consulting group that's operated in Yukon since 1965. And we've been able to mine that information to come up with what we think are some exceptional mineral projects. We haven't been terribly focused on one commodity during the last 20 years. Whenever we saw a really high-quality project, we got it. So we have quite a diverse style of deposits, and they span almost every commodity that you can think of, which works really well in an environment where precious metals, base metals, and critical metals are all hitting new highs almost daily. So it's a nice place to be. As I said, we've been building our royalty interests. We currently have 12, but we've just done a deal that will bring another 11 royalties into the fold shortly. They're all NSRs. We've done some pretty lucrative or beneficial, I think, option deals, which will see a lot of money spent on a couple of the properties. Two behind me, the Hopper is a porphyry skarn system that Cavo and now Alpha Gold, who's taken Cavo over, are exploring quite successfully. It's located down near Haines Junction. And the other one, the Alada, is just south of Casino. And we just done a deal there that we'll see, if it goes all the way to completion, a company spent $11 million and pay us $500,000 in cash payments over several years to earn a 60% interest. The reason we've done that type of deal rather than a royalty interest is the prize is so large with porphyries that you don't want to fix your benefits too early. You want to see how it progresses, and a healthy equity interest can be marketed later or swapped for stock if that's advantageous. So we're quite happy with that structure. Moving forward, we're looking there at the board and the management of the company. It's been very stable for many years. We work well together. Includes lawyers, accountants, geologists, quite a diverse portfolio, some financial people. And again, it's allowed us to maintain our cash position and build our portfolios of projects over the time we've been doing this. It's quite an unusual story. So right now we've got about 110 million shares on an outstanding basis, and with the options included, we got up to about 120 million shares. Gives us a market cap, there it's shown as 33 million. Actually today, unless the share price went up a little bit, it's actually closer to 30. The information on the red box is kind of critical. So we've got a $30 million market cap. We've got about $28 million worth of shares of other companies. We've got, or 38 million, sorry, and we've got about $3.5 million, $4 million of cash. So we're trading at a major discount to our cash and shares that we hold. That doesn't give us any valuation for the royalty interests we own, nor for all the property interests that we have. So I think there's a lot of potential upside here as this market gets a little more mature and we put more projects in play. We've also, unlike our peers, we've been able to return dividends to our shareholders over the last 10 years, a total about $20 million. They were done as plans of arrangements which delivered shares to the shareholders on a pro rata basis as we formed new vehicles. And if people were patient, that $20 million had quite a multiplier. It would be more like 50 or 60 if they held on and sold after the stock plays got a little bit more mature for those companies. So it's worked out well for us, and I think for our shareholders as well. Very patient shareholders. Condir has a large interest in the company. Management also has a lot of skin in the game. Those aren't. The number that you see there isn't our option position included. That's actually shares that we own. And Sprott, again, has been a shareholder for many years and is still there in a big way. Ruffer, a little bit newer, and their position's actually been growing in the last couple of years. So, again, good institutional following. So, simply, why are we in the Yukon? Well, I mentioned before that we've got access to big databases, a lot of personal knowledge, but it's also a pretty fertile place to be looking. There's some major mineral belts that other people here at this conference have discussed. The Selwyn Basin, of course, a great place to look for lead and zinc. The Porphyry copper belt extends up out of BC and into Yukon. But one of the main drivers is what we've here described as the Northern Credillion Gold Province. It encompasses a number of smaller gold provinces, things like the Tombstone Gold Belt and the Dawson Range and whatnot, Rakla Trend, where Attack has their Carlin discoveries. But in the last 10 years, there's been a tremendous number of ounces discovered in that belt. In total, it contains more than 300 million ounces of production and resources, making it one of the largest gold belts in the world. About 10% of all the known resources around the world are in that one belt of rocks. So it's a good place to look, and the majors are coming in a big way. And that's anytime you get the majors taking large interest in an area, that speaks very well. And if any of you saw the keynote speak by Michael Gray today, he thinks that we're lagging a little bit behind Northern BC. We lost about 20 years of exploration during land claims and devolution in the late 1990s, and I think that lost generation is being made up for in the last 10 years, which partly accounts for all the discoveries to be made in the territory. And I think, like Michael does, that we're heading into a very, very special period of time again. So the Tombstone Gold Belt, as most of you know, the Eagle deposit anchors that belt. The former Brewery Creek mine is in it. If you go across the fault offset on the Tintina Fault, which is post-mineralization, you get the Fairbanks district in Alaska with, of course, the big Fairbanks gold mine that Kinross operates. We've got some excellent projects there. The two that particularly noteworthy, the Mount Hinton property directly south of Keno Hill. It's got more than 80 known high-grade gold veins on it, a lot of silver in some of them as well. I think it's a great complement to the Keno district, and I think that Hecla will have to take a look at it because Keno's always had a tough time feeding the mill, and I think that our veins have the ability to smooth out some of their exploration shortfalls that happen periodically as they exhaust various silver deposits. Further to the east, we've got a project that we've had for a few years and recently expanded, the Lance. And again, it's like many of the deposits in that belt, is a reduced intrusion style mineralization, fairly modest grades in the half gram to gram range, but they generally have very, very good leaching characteristics. It's the type of deposit that you have at Eagle, Raven, Snowline, of course, further to the east of us, the Ormac deposit are all in that category. So, very optimistic that we're onto the same type of discovery at Lance. So we just laid out there, where some of our projects are located. Again, we're up in the 90s at the present time. It changes as we do different deals. We've got more than 12,000 mineral claims in Yukon. That's a big chunk of ground, but fortunately Yukon has very favorable holding costs for the claims, and you can hold them by doing work rather than paying taxes or something, so it works out very well. We've got lots of permitted projects, Class 3 permits, which are sort of the creme de la creme to have, in that they're 10-year permits, and most of our projects are permitted for hundreds of drill holes. So someone looking for a turnkey operation can come to us and move very quickly from acquisition to actually starting drilling. They don't have to lose a year while they're in the permitting process. We've got 5 in joint ventures, 8 currently under option to various companies, and I think that's going to grow here in the next few weeks as we announce some more deals. And again, the royalties, we're around 23 right now when one deal closes, and again, I expect it to grow in the next few weeks as well. We've worked closely with the First Nations for many years. Richard Drexler, who I know a lot of you know, spends a lot of his time keeping the First Nations abreast of what we're doing, getting feedback where they're willing to offer information about concerns they might have with a project, and looking for ways to mitigate our impacts where we can. We've also signed formal impact benefits agreements with 3 First Nations. Hope to continue to expand that to other groups in the next few years. Where our impact benefits agreements differ from most companies is we sign them right at Greenfields level. So as soon as we have claims in an area, the First Nation participates in our exploration activities. We form committees to look for synergies that might exist between, say, employment, service opportunities, again, feedback from their lands departments, and they actually get a percentage of our exploration expenditures paid to them as a cash payment on an annual basis. So it's very progressive attitude for First Nations relations. Spin-outs and buyouts, we talked a little bit about it. We've been able to do a lot of transactions over the years. The spin-outs have allowed us to pay the dividends that we talked about, the $20 million worth of distributions. That's always a possibility if we get a project that we think is really attractive, and we're looking for a way to take it public so that we're not making the exploration expenditures and bearing the dilution that would come with it. Then we'll probably go that route again. Buybacks, we haven't done it for a number of years, but there have been periods of times where the stock price, for one reason or another, got so low that it actually the market cap was lower than our cash that we had on hand, and we actually at times were able to buy back shares and make money for the company through buybacks. It's an unusual situation that I think can only really happen in the junior sector. But again, it's allowed us to keep our share holdings really quite tight, and very judicious expenditures have allowed us to make sure that we really haven't diluted ourselves to do large drill programs and whatnot like many companies do. And our royalties, we like to build them. I think that we're quietly becoming a royalty company, and to some degree a holding company with a very large share position we have. The idea is in the next few years to get cash flow from some of these and become totally independent of fluctuations in the market. We've done pretty well, but I think we can do even better. So we talked about investments. We right now we have large holdings in a number of companies, and some of them are shown in that slide. Some of you probably saw Matt Turner talk about Rockhaven. We own just under 30% of that company, working on a very prospective gold, silver epithermal vein system, road accessible, great project. They're moving toward pre-feasibility, and I think that when they get that completed, it'll be a benchmark or landmark event for that company, and I think we'll benefit quite well from it. Terra CO2. Anyone who's been around and seen me talk before know how enthusiastic I am about this one. It's a harebrained idea that we came up with about a way to utilize tailings initially and convert them to cement of all things. And the more work that we've done with that company, they have got patents in place now. They've moved their domicile to the United States. We've got a very experienced construction executive as the CEO. He formerly sold one of his operations to Lafarge for $3 billion, so he knows the cement business inside out and backward. He's also a civil engineering professor. So they've been able to raise $61 million to advance that technology. It's very scalable, it's directly competitive with regular cement, but it has the advantage of producing about 50 to 70% less CO2 and about 10% of the nitrous oxide that conventional cement production does. And so it's got interest from some very, very high-level investors. The largest shareholder now is Bill Gates' Breakthrough Energy. We're one of their largest investments. In addition to that, Rio Tinto came in, took a big share position. Lennox, the big home builder in the U.S., took a big position. We're still the second largest shareholder, and with warrants that we have that are about a fifth of where they did their last underwriting, we could go back to 17%, which we still won't catch Bill Gates, but we're chasing him. A couple of the other ones, I won't go through every single one, but GGL is working on a very prospective target. It's been looking for diamonds for years. We've morphed away from that. Realize it's an expensive business to be in, and we've picked up, I think, one of the most interesting projects in Nevada. It's in the Walker Lane. We just finished a news release just the other day of reporting some sampling we did from one of the underground developments on the property. There's 4 former producers. We got some great results suggesting that there's a lot of mineralization in there that wasn't extracted by the previous operators. It was last mined in 1962, and of course at that time gold was $35 an ounce, and they were mining from, at that point, 1,000 feet below surface, and then taking it to surface and trucking it to a mill that was about 20 kilometers away and making money. So it gives you an idea of exactly how high grade this thing is. We got in there. There's it's got a lot of potential, and there are going to be more news releases to follow on that one. And I think again it could be really accretive to our shareholdings or our value of our shareholdings. And then jumping around the circle way over on the other side, there's one called Broden Mining, and that's one that near and dear to my heart. We're working with Ross River Dene Corp. Broden has an agreement with them. They've negotiated with Canada and Yukon for agreements that would potentially allow them to reactivate the old Faro mining camp. And for any of you who are long-time Yukoners, Faro at one time was by far the largest mine ever to operate in Yukon, one of the largest lead zinc mines in Canada. It was 40% of Yukon GDP for many, many years. And much of the mineralization in that district was never mined. And so Broden is working very aggressively to complete that transaction. And again, we own about 33% of that company, 34%. So we hope that Donald McGuinness, who very experienced executive, is able to put that thing to bed and get it public here in the next little while. So that's just a little bit on Broden. Why do we like it? Well, of the resources that are still there, there's over 5 billion pounds of zinc, 3.5 billion pounds of lead, 111 million ounces of silver, and nearly 1 million ounces of gold. So that's a fairly good endowment to start from. And if you talk to people who are involved in exploration at Faro, they'll tell you there's lots more to be found in that belt. They never had to look very hard because they always had 20 years of production in front of them. So the exploration geologists were the most frustrated people I knew. They're lucky to get one hole a year to go out and test a new idea. So I think there'll be more discoveries made, and I know that the economics in there, I've seen work from it. They look very promising. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that one. And that just to show people what we talk about with Broden. We're not acquiring the area shown in blue. That's the old Faro mine, the tailings, the mill site. That remains with Government of Canada. And we're not taking on any liabilities related to it, nor will we disrupt the reclamation program that's underway there. The ground that we're acquiring is in red, where the old Grum mine is. Purple, exploration claims that include the Grizzly deposit. And we have an agreement with Silver Range Resources for a large land package that they have to the north, which doesn't have the same style of mineralization as Faro, but they found some very promising silver targets up in that part of the claim block. So it gives us a huge land package and lots of runway if we're able to put this deal to bed. Rockhaven, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. If you can read real quick or want to take a shot of the screen, it'll give you a bunch of the metrics on that deposit. I think it's one of the most undervalued gold plays in Canada. I truly don't know why it doesn't trade at a higher price. It should, and I think that with the pre-feasibility completed, I think it'll be a very good signal that we're moving out of this long doldrum period that they've been in on the Lassonge curve, where they've been going through definition and that kind of work and moving toward construction. They'll certainly be entering the permitting process when this study is complete. And that's just illustrating what I just said a little bit more graphically. Tara, we talked a little bit about it before. As I said, it's a revolutionary process. Cement is a bigger industry than the world. Every aspect of the world's mineral industry combined isn't as big as cement. It creates 8% of the world's CO2 on an annualized basis. Breakwater Energy only invests in projects that can reduce worldwide CO2 emission by 0.5% single-handedly. And they recognize this as having that potential. If it was universally adopted, it could potentially reduce it at 4 to 5%. So it can be massively disruptive. And the beauty of it is it's scalable and it's also directly cost competitive with conventional cement. And just to highlight again, Rockhaven, that's one catalyst. It's about 6 months from having their pre-feasibility done. Could be a sharp increase in the value of our holdings. Broden could happen tomorrow. We don't know when it'll get signed, but that one could really have a very dramatic impact on our value of our stock assets or stock portfolio. Terra CO2. That one I can't even quantify. Like that thing has got so much blue sky that it literally you could be looking at the equivalent of some of the mega companies that developed in the United States. It has potential to be a really big deal. And finally, we're taking care of business. We're doing lots of deals. We're talking to lots of people. There's lots in our pipeline, deals that I think are going to get finalized here pretty quick, and I think there's potential to do a lot more. And so if anybody's interested in a really good copper porphyry or a great gold project, come and give me a call, and I think I can probably find one for you. With that, thank you very, very much.